not overhype the Open. I will not overhype the Open. I will not. It is going to be one of the greatest day twos you have ever seen at the Pro Tour. Two Hall of Famers, both from the class of 2015, both at the peak of their powers. Frotime versus Showtime. You are in the best seat in the house. It starts right here, right now. Hello everyone, welcome to day two of Pro Tour Kaladesh. I'm your host Rich Hagan, alongside the Pro Tour historian Mr. Brian David Marshall.
I think that was definitely better than the over-the-top version.
Good. And Mr. Ian Duke from Inside R&D. Ian, how are you?
I'm great, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thanks for being here. Tell us about yesterday, Ian, from an R&D perspective. How awesome was day one?
It was awesome. I mean, starting from the draft, like we got to see a whole spectrum of different strategies. We got to see energy, we got to see vehicles, we got to see hyper aggro, we got to see, controlling artifact decks. We got to see the Johnniest draft deck I've ever seen in terms of Paul Rietzel's crazy inventions. And then into the constructed was just fantastic as well. This is, a huge change from the last standard environment, and love seeing it unfold.
Yeah, plenty of nonsense around BDM, both in limited and constructed.
Absolutely. In constructed, Aetherworks Marvel was obviously the big story of the day. We saw people putting, Ulamogs and Emeralds into play on turn 4. But honestly, as we went down the stretch of the tournament, it was about people gear hulking up. Both Verdurous Gear Hulk and Torrential Gear Hulk are undefeated. And the only two undefeated players are not playing the Aetherworks Marvel deck. They're playing, different versions of decks that top out with the Green Gear Hulk or the Blue Gear Hulk.
Well, why don't we take a look at our overall standings after day one. Day one of 3, of course, we had 466 players come in. These are your top 20 right now. So you have your 2 undefeated players, both Hall of Famers, as we mentioned at the Open, Shota Yasooka and Eric Froelich. And then at 7 and 1, they stretch from Pierre Dajon in 3rd, down to Rob Pisano in 15th place. Some of the big names in there: Li Shi-chan chasing a 5th Pro Tour top 8, Pat Cox going for yet more Sunday glory, Zach Elsick playing a control deck in a field that wasn't meant to be set up for that. Tom Martell's a Pro Tour champion, of course, and Reed Duke, Ian's brother, doing rather nicely, thank you, in 5th place right now. So, gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to set up the draft pods for this morning, because if you're unfamiliar with this, players sit down at tables of 8, and they can only play people within that table for the next 3 rounds. So once you see the 7 names around the table, that's your morning here at the Pro Tour. So why don't we start off with pod number 1. This is a truly, truly stacked top table. It begins, and it's in scorecard order. So BDM, what stands out here beyond the opening match, which will, of course, be Shota Yasooka against Eric Froelich?
Well, you know what? I think the real headline for me here is Matthew Nass. Matt Nass has really established himself. I know we're talking about limited here, but you've got to give him a nod as just one of the best. He's in that elite class of deck designers right now, and he, built his team's deck, and is sitting here with a great draft record as well. And I'm really curious to see what he's going to get to do in this draft pod.
Have you had a chance to talk with Reed at all, Ian?
I did. I chatted with him a little bit this morning. He's very excited, obviously feeling great coming in at 7 and 1, and he's excited about his constructed deck as well, so hoping that he does well in draft.
Right, and again, this idea of playing within the pod, of those 8, 1 can go 3 and 0. The rest, 3 2 and 1s, 3 1 and 2s, someone goes 0 and 3. That's the line that Paul Rietzel always likes to say when he sits down to draft. One of us is going 0 and 3, so the players are ready. We are going to head down. Now, of course, we're going to show you the big 2. We're going to begin with every card of every pack of Shota Yasooka. In a little while, these 2 fine gentlemen will walk you through every pick of every pack of Eric Froelich. And later in the day, we'll have Reed Duke here to walk you through his draft as well. It really is world-class drafting action. And it begins right now.
Hello there, and welcome to the booth here at Pro Tour Kaladesh. Marshall Sutcliffe with Luis Scott Vargas, and we are teeming with excitement at the prospect of covering this next draft. Pod number 1 of the Pro Tour on day 2 is always stacked. This one is no different. Let's take a look at how the seating is arranged for our pod. You can see that we've got Shota Yasooka on the top there. That's who we're going to be watching on our live draft. That's who you and I are going to be commentating on right now, Luis. We've also got Eric Froelich on our recorded match that we'll be covering over at the news desk. But as you can see, there's a lot of very big names in this pod.
Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting draft. We've got a lot of experience here, and I have to assume a lot of different drafting styles. We don't have anyone from the same team here, so we have a lot of different preparation coming into the draft, and I would be surprised if people had the similar valuations on a lot of the different cards.
Yeah, I did actually talk to a few of these players this morning, including Reed Duke, Ben White, Matt Nass, and Pierre Dajon, and we'll hear from them throughout the course of the day, but they all said they feel comfortable in the limited environment based on their testing. Okay, it is time. Let's head down to the feature match area and watch Shota Yasooka draft Kaladesh. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Kaladesh. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott Vargas, and we have sat down for the second and final draft of our Pro Tour here. It is early in the day on day 2, and we are at table 1, the dreaded table 1 on day 2 at a PT here. All these players have excellent records from yesterday. We're going to start things off by watching Shota Yasooka, the Hall of Famer. Take a look at Shota there as he 3-0'd his draft yesterday. And let's see what he finds in his booster packs here. I have no idea what to expect from Shota as far as how he's decided to draft the format.
Yeah, and this first pick's going to be illustrative of that. He's got Underhanded Designs, Key to the City, Veteran Motorist, and Gearseeker Serpent kind of at the front of the pack there.
Yeah.
And those are all, as well as Shoot Negotiation.
Too.
He's got a lot of powerful options. In fact, this is a super
this
deep
pack.
pack.
Is insane.
The first 6 people or so from this pack are going to be very happy. And even after that, there are playable cards. So Veteran Motorist points in a very specific direction, an aggressive red-white deck. Underhanded Designs and Shoot Negotiation and Gearseeker Serpent all kind of tell you to draft these artifact-heavy decks. And wow, he just slammed Gearseeker Serpent.
That's insane. The only thing he was doing by pulling those other cards to the front was seeing what he may have a chance to get back on the wheel.
Yeah, and I think it's highly likely that he could get back something like Die Young or Prophetic Prism. So this is perfect because him first picking Gearseeker Serpent gives us actually a lot of context as to what Shota might be thinking.
That's right.
We saw Paulo Vitor Damarosa draft yesterday. Me and BDM did the draft review, and Paulo just didn't take Gearseeker Serpent. No one at the table did. There was 4 of them. They're floating around. Should have first picked a Gearseeker over a lot of other fairly strong cards.
Very strong cards, yeah. Revoke Privileges seems to be the highest power level card that he's found here. How do you feel about following up a Gearseeker Serpent with a Revoke?
I like taking Revoke because blue-white does tend to accumulate artifacts, especially with like the Fabricate theme.
Ooh, how about Furious Reprisal?
Furious Reprisal, it does lead him into potentially a artifact-heavy blue-red deck, which is one of the themes of blue-red. You have your Salivating Gremlins to go along with your Gearseeker Serpent and trying to stack up a lot of small artifacts. But blue-red, I think, talking to most teams, is also the least popular of the 10-color combinations.
Yeah,
so
it looks like Shota is not afraid to draft it here, though. This pack, significantly worse than the prior 2. Not nearly as deep.
It is. Whirler Maker fits nicely as a theme, but then so does Skyskiff and Quicksmith Genius. They're all cards that could kind of supplement the artifact theme. Windrake, a card which actually the estimation varies wildly depending on which team you talk to.
Yeah. All right, well, it looks like he is going to stick on that plan, and you can see that Shota has that exact game plan in mind that you just described, which is the blue-red Artifacts Matters deck, as a Quicksmith Genius does benefit you pretty significantly from having artifacts into the battlefield. The 3/2 for 3 is serviceable as well, but not great. Ooh, there's an Aetherworks Marvel.
Constructed Standout Aetherworks Marvel.
We did see that in a 3-0 deck in the hands of Ben Whites, who's also at this table, by the way, though. It doesn't look like what Shota wants here.
And should have quickly took that over Ballista Charger, Torch Gauntlet, Salivating Gremlin. So
I guess I'm wrong. He exactly wants that.
Yeah, it looks like Shota is interested in the energy theme that is also present in blue-red.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, is that he hasn't touched on that yet, right? He has definitely leaned himself more in the direction of the Artifact Matters version of the deck, but there are plenty of energy cards in this color pair. He just doesn't have any yet. There's a Thriving Turtle. Maybe that's what he wants.
And Thriving Turtle, I think, makes a ton of sense given what Shota currently has. He's not super tied into blue. He's just got the one Gearseeker, so it's possible that he wants to veer off for a Riparian Tiger or a Malfist Squad. Those are also just solid cards. But if he wants to stay committed to blue, then Thriving Turtle will put him really on that course. He'll have 2 blue cards, 2 red cards, and an artifact, and that really does signify that Shota's settling in here.
Yeah, now the question that comes to mind, though, is that, if one of these decks is a blue-red energy deck and one of these decks is a blue-red I care about artifacts deck, is there a middle ground that he can hit?
Yeah, those can overlap pretty well, especially since they both can also either be aggressive or defensive, though the energy deck is going to be much more likely to be defensive.
Yeah, and you can see that Shota's starting to feel the pressure of not really having artifacts yet. He's going to take the Consulate Skygate as an early cheap artifact to propel his deck forward.
It's a very defensive card and provides an artifact that kind of sits on the board. He took it also over in Either Trade Wins, which is a pretty strong card.
Here's an interesting choice. He's got a Glassblower's Puzzle Knot. There's an Eager Construct and a High Tide Hermit that he has to decide between. Again, this is sort of forcing him to go down one path or the other. He took the Hermit, which is the energy side. He could have taken the Puzzle Knot as well, which kind of gives him both.
One reason I like Puzzle Knot in that spot is that it ticks both boxes.
Yeah.
It does cover your artifact and your energy sub-themes. Another thing to note, looking at that pack that also had a malfunction in it, is that blue seems fairly open. Red, we haven't actually seen another good red card besides like the Furious Reprisal and the Quicksmith Genius. Blue has a lot of like mid-range playables here, and looks like Shota's just going to bolster that artifact theme.
Yeah, he is. He just took a Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot there. You can see he was looking at Tezzeret's Ambition, which is a card that I think Shota is probably fond of, but he ended up not taking it.
Of note, Veteran Motorist Wield. Shota took Self-Assembler,
Wow.
which is a good card. I wouldn't be surprised if Shota ends up moving, or at least having the possibility of moving out a red on the table here. Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, certainly not a black card, but does have some leaning towards that. Ooh, that's a nice late Glassblower's Puzzle.
I mean, it kind of is a black card, though, right?
In a deck,
Like, are you playing it?
In a deck with enough Gearseeker Serpents, you can just play it.
You can just play it as like a cantrip.
Especially if you pick up something like Prophetic Prism to have outs to sacrifice it.
Yeah, so Shota has really solidified himself in blue and less so in red, like you mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see during the review period that we get after these last few picks go by how he sort of sorts things out. And as we take a look at it, just how red he actually is. Because, if he is just super heavy blue, he's in that beautiful position where when he goes into pack 2, if he opens something great in another color, he could just move in.
Should also passing on 2 Ruinous Gremlins there. That
so there's a Quicksmith Genius and the Furious Reprisal at the front that we saw. Those were his early picks. The rest have been basically artifacts and blue cards.
Yeah. There's a Gearseeker Serpent for the artifact theme, Thriving Turtle, Aetherworks Marvel, and the Crab and Glassblower's Puzzle Knot all as energy themes with a number of artifacts sitting there. So I think that Shota is mostly going to be looking to pick up Gearseeker Serpents and energy cards, and whatever color supports that best, he'll likely go into. But that is not necessarily going to be red. He's got look, when you have a second pick red card and a third pick red card and no more red cards, you really are doing yourself a disservice if you lock into a color at that point. Like, you don't have a reason to do that. On the other hand, Shota didn't pass a single good red card.
No, he didn't.
So
he's likely to get good red cards in this next
I wouldn't be
pack.
surprised if he gets like a third pick Welding Sparks in this pack, and I think he's aware of that as well.
That's right. But there's always a balance there, because then he also can plan for not picking up that many good red cards in the third pack. So a lot of this is going to depend on what he opens up in this next pack, in the next couple of picks, to decide what he does. Because, if he gets a push in another direction, he may just go for it. But if it's just good, decent blue cards, he may just stay the course as well.
You know what would cast Gearseeker Serpent quite well?
What's that?
Soul Ring. Turn 1 Soul Ring, Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot. Turn 2, I guess you can't even turn 2 the Gearseeker then. Man.
Wow.
We had outs.
Yeah.
The most natural place for Shota to go, by the way, if he's running the Gearseeker Serpent deck, is into black. Just because black also has that theme going. Though the Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, it really is his only foray into that direction. I would expect Shota to be flexible here if he opens like a Virtuous Gear Hole. Something along those lines that there's not a really compelling reason not to take it. He's not giving up much by doing that.
Yeah, one of the things that you'll see that you'll use as a tool is you'll picture the 2 red cards you have against whatever it is that you're going to pick and just say, well, which one would I rather have? Ooh,
well,
there's a Whirler
Virtuoso is
oh, but it's the Healy's Artistry
as
here
well.
too.
Right.
My
and a Cultivator's
goodness.
Caravan, which I don't think is as appealing as those first 2.
No, it's not. But maybe it's interesting because the Whirler Virtuoso is really one of the top cards he could get for what he's doing, but he picked up a bomb-like card here with Saheeli's Artistry already in his
It's not even
core
bomb-like,
color.
just a bomb.
Yeah.
And
I think he just has to take that here, right?
it's certainly the safest to take Saheeli's Artistry because it's intrinsically a little more powerful card and it's mono blue. Whirler Virtuoso does fit so nicely into the energy theme,
He's
though.
so sad.
And he's looking to see, well, maybe I'll get this Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot back.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting, though, that we're in Pack 2 and Whirler Virtuoso is a gold card. You know, there's always a chance that somebody else isn't in blue-red and doesn't feel like splashing. It's obviously unlikely, but there's another Key to the City. Those are kind of just going around the table. There's an Unlicensed Disintegration, though. That's a bit of a stretch for him at this point.
Well, Shota is playing Grixis in Standard. Maybe he wants to just run it back and draft here.
He could. He could take a High Tide Hermit as well.
So Key to the City is a cheap artifact,
Yeah.
but it's a lot more aggressive than Shota is really looking for.
I mean, you don't have to attack with the creature.
You don't have to. And paying 2 and tapping it essentially to loot every turn, to discard a card every turn is not like that efficient of a use of mana.
Wow, now this is a stretch. He took an Unlicensed Disintegration out of that pack. What do you think?
I think that Shota's going to want to take Prophetic Prism over almost anything at this point. If he's interested in playing Saheeli's Artistry and Unlicensed Disintegration, which I can assure you he's interested in playing both.
There's a long-finned Sky Whale. He paused on that for a moment.
Well, Weaponcraft Enthusiast is also a really good card for Shota. He might be moving into blue-black and potentially splashing Unlicensed Disintegration. I do think the Enthusiast is better than any of the red cards Shota has currently. Though Salivating Gremlins also could just veer him back into red. This is a pretty crucial pick. Whichever card Shota takes, he's giving up a lot if he then reverts on this decision.
Yeah, it looks like he still wants to keep the Unlicensed Disintegration in the splash category for his deck. But like you said he wants to pick up Prophetic Prism over most things at this point, but I think he kind of needs to if he's going to run all these cards.
Oof, this pack's got a lot of black cards. It actually still hasn't seen much in the way of red. Tezzeret's Ambition, a fine card for a kind of controlling blue deck, which looks like the direction we're heading.
I mean, that when he wakes up in the morning and gets out of the house, that's the direction he's heading. Grixis in all formats here, apparently, for Shota. You know, there's a Chandra's Pyrohelix. There's a Bomac Courier in there. I don't think that's going to fit too well.
Glassblower's Puzzle not bad for the theme. Select for Inspection is also a fairly powerful defensive card. So I could see either of these spells being what Shota needs in order to leverage his more powerful late game.
Yeah, he's going to take the Pyrohelix. I kind of like the Select for Inspection there. It's from a similar role of being able to interact with creatures in the early part of the game. Pyrohelix can hit players, can kill small creatures.
Pyrohelix is a little more permanent, but Select does deal with larger creatures here.
Okay, now he's got Ether Hub, which he has to be on his list here, given that he has not seen any Prisms. And then there's also a Thriving Turtle and a Tezzeret's Ambition in the pile here, too.
Besides the Aetherworks Marvel, Shota doesn't actually have huge energy payoffs, since he didn't end up taking that Whirler Virtuoso.
Well,
But
is the Aetherworks Marvel a huge energy payoff at this point?
it is if you can get it going. If you're casting the best of your
Get it
top
going
six,
like being activating it twice in a game?
yes, because casting the top 6, the best card out of your top 6 is a pretty big reward. And you know the Gearseeker Serpent and Salivating Gremlins plan that Shota kind of has going hasn't gotten a ton of support.
No, it hasn't. He's certainly aware of it. He keeps pulling artifacts to the front, but then he's finding better cards just in his color, and it does look like he's a little bit more towards energy here. Yeah, a lot of blue cards still left.
Fireforger's Puzzle Knot does bolster the artifact theme. Curio Vendor and Nimble Innovator, not cards that have performed all that well.
Yeah, Ceremonious Rejection in this pack as well, though. He's going to reject it and take the Fireforger's Puzzle Knot that you mentioned there, Luis. Trying to get these artifacts going. He still hasn't seen another Gearseeker Serpent. I know he'd love to have picked up another one of those. He'll have another pack to take a shot at it, but
Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot does help with both themes, but Spontaneous Artist is just like an overall more consistent card.
he's just going to take a Bastion Mastodon here as he winds down pack number 2. If you're sitting in his seat, Luis, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty excited about pack 3. Blue was incredibly open pack 1. I don't expect a lot of red cards in pack 3, so it's mostly going to be blue. But Shota, I mean, not only is he high on playables, this format is high on playables. He's not gonna run out of things to do. He really wants to pick up 1, or if he's really lucky, 2 more Gear Seeker Serpents, and then he can just go all in on artifacts, or another good energy payoff, and then he can lean harder into that. It is tricky balancing the 2 themes and trying to make sure they're both enabled. And I would say as of right now, going into pack 3, there's 1 Aetherworks Marvel and 1 Gear Seeker Serpent, and we're not quite there on either of them. Though
somehow they've locked in a fight for Shota's attention here.
Note the last pick, Accomplished Automaton. That's actually a relevant card here. And this pack was good for Shota. The fact that he opened, one of the better cards in the set, and then picked up some decent energy cards, the Ether Hub. It was definitely not a miss of a pack. I still don't think that red is open really from either direction. Shota's red cards are a Chandra's Pyrohelix,
super medium,
an Unlicensed Disintegration of Furious Reprisal, and a bunch of kind of like mid-range playables that he took relatively early.
Yeah, the Quicksmith Genius and the Salivating Gremlins in that pile, but Spontaneous Artist, none of these are headliners for his deck, though they are all playable.
At this point, Shota is locked into red, though. I mean, he's, I think, going to splash the Unlicensed Disintegration, but I'd be surprised if he ends up not on red. I'll also note there's 1 Self-Assembler in his pile, so...
Now, currently, the only way he has to splash is that Ether Hub, right?
That is all, and...
I've not seen any.
And it's not clear that a Prophetic Prism is going to be an easy card to find. Shota looking at the last, kind of...
Yeah.
The dregs of his artifacts with... He's got black and red Puzzle Knots and Accomplished Automaton that can make it in depending on where his themes end up going.
Yeah, he's just kind of getting ahead of the game here and putting out a potential build. You will note also that the players are getting a little bit of extra time for review.
Yeah,
here.
that was a change for this Pro Tour.
Yeah, I like it. It's good for us just to get a better feel for where the players are at, because sometimes it feels a little rushed when they have to just and then put them back down again.
I know when I was playing, I wish that players would get less time for review.
And less time for picks. And less time in the round.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this brings us to the 3rd and final pack of our booster draft here for Shota. And this one's really going to make or break his deck. If his deck, if he opens up some really good stuff, not even talking about rares, he could really solidify his deck in a great direction. And if not, it's going to be kind of medium.
Well, a second Aetherworks Marvel.
Okay, you saw him pause on that Aetherworks Marvel,
There's also a Welding Sparks, and I think that show is completely correct to just dismiss Renegade Freighters, what it looks like he did. He just didn't even...
I don't even think he looked at it. Yeah. Now,
Renegade Freighter, not really a Shota Yasooka card.
No, but what is going on with this Aetherworks Marvel? Because I was questioning the first one already, saying, okay, if you can activate it a couple of times maybe. But
it's a really powerful card.
If
you have consistent sources of energy, you can actually just go off.
He's going to do it. I love it. Shota. Oh man,
I'm not going to say that I wasn't rooting for him to take that card.
I was totally rooting for him. I was trying to play devil's advocate and make the case, but I want him to play 2
I was trying
Aetherworks
to play Marvel's advocate, and I just wanted him to take it.
Yeah, he's one of the few people in the room who's not playing it in their standard deck, but he's got 2.
All right, so
draft deck. That's great.
So oh wow,
Confiscation Coup.
Just one of the best cards in the set too.
Especially given that he is pushing hard in the energy direction. Unbelievable.
Well,
that is fantastic.
Hall of Famer Shota Yasooka does it again. I mean, Confiscation Coup, Saheeli's Artistry, double Aetherworks Marvel. When you have cards like Confiscation Coup and Saheeli's Artistry in your deck, Aetherworks Marvel starts looking even better.
Gosh.
It's a great card if you have other great cards.
I'm into it. This is just getting
past Confiscation Coup. 100% the person to your right isn't blue, even though I should have already suspected that. Now it's nice to confirm it.
Wow. That's just too good.
Noxious
now
Gearhulk
a Noxious
and a
Gearhulk?
Whirler Virtuoso.
Well, he's just going to have to take the Whirler Virtuoso here.
I believe so, but you have to be close to just taking Noxious Gearhulk and just pivoting into blue-black and then splashing Unlicensed Disintegration. I don't think that's unreasonable. Saheeli's Artistry and Noxious Gearhulk are just unbeatable.
They are unbeatable.
And you can Aetherworks Marvel into the Gearhulk, and Shota's red cards are just so medium.
Oh, do it, Shota. Yes,
oh, yes.
He took it. That is great.
I kind of love it.
I mean, I think the Noxious Gearhulk is the best card in the set for Limited.
Yeah, and
I actually think it's
also,
number 1.
Should have got a third pick Noxious
Yeah,
Gearhulk.
it's just completely.
He just took Mythic, Rare, Mythic, and they're all bombs. And that means the rest of this pack, he's going to get more black cards if any show up.
There is another rare in the pack, though. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to fit his theme particularly well.
Well, Foundry Screecher is actually a decent blocker. Scrap Heap Scrounger is a fine card, though.
It is a fine card. It
Though
really
Shota's
doesn't
just not
seem to go
aggressive
with
at
what he's
all.
doing.
He really wants to be defensive. The good thing about Scrap Heap Scrounger is that it does enable your Gear Seeker Serpent, which Shota only has one of right now, but...
All right. Well, he took it. He just took the most powerful card of the pack. I think he figured he wasn't giving up much there with the Screecher anyway.
So there are two things going on here. One is that Shota needs to make sure he can pivot into black successfully. The other is that if he sees Prophetic Prism, he's really got an incentive to slam it now.
Yeah, he picked an Aetherborn Marauder there, which is a really solid card, though. +1/+1 counters in his deck. I mean, he's got a few thriving creatures. Not a lot.
Just the two
going on
thriving
with that.
turtles, and that's basically it. I guess
Still.
he's got Accomplished Automaton. You can fabricate one onto the automaton.
You know, I don't think he's going to end up playing it. He's got a pretty decent top end on this deck. I don't know if he needs that. Your buddy, the Accomplished Automaton, in there.
Shota on mono rare control here. All right.
Now there's a Select for Inspection and a Die Young.
Die Young's very good for this deck. It's a removal and an energy creator. So I think that once you pick up that Noxious Gearhulk, you're just like, well, I can just cut this kind of mid-range red cards and just play this 10 out of 10 black card instead. And Joe's going to have enough playables either way.
Yeah.
It just and this is one of the things that I like about this draft format is you have the opportunity to be flexible here, and it's worth kind of abandoning some earlier picks in order to increase your card quality overall by a lot.
Yeah, you also have seen that Shota has really dedicated a lot of picks to artifacts that he can cast no matter what colors he ends up being, so that it's likely that his deck will be functional either way. It gives him even a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because at this point, Shota's not really getting a whole lot of intrinsic value out of artifacts. He's got the one Gear Seeker Serpent, and that is basically it. So it's more that Shota just wants cards he can cast.
Looks like he may just take a Lawless Broker here.
Lawless Broker combo Aetherborn Marauder, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's just a creature with power and toughness.
Yeah, this deck is Shota went deep. Though, you know, he did see one Prophetic Prism all
He
draft.
saw one Prophetic Prism the whole draft.
And it was pack one, pick one. He didn't take it, and I don't think he's seen another one since. So
people are
that's a
catching
little-
on. That card is really good.
Yeah. What about the Unlicensed Disintegration? Because that is one card that I keep thinking about that he'd love to find room for in his list. Is that actually going to make it with just the Ether Hub?
Knowing Shota, I would say it's more likely to make it into his deck than not, but it's not a guarantee. It's another card to hit off Aetherworks Marvel.
Do you think it should?
I think it should.
Yeah, putting it on the spot here.
I'd have to lay his deck out.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he just picked up a Live Fast. So getting Live Fast and having Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot makes me a little more likely to want to splash.
Yeah.
Once you start seeing more cards and drawing more cards,
Sure.
you end up being able to absorb splash colors a lot better.
It's going to take a Puzzle Knot. He already has a Dukara Scavenger in his pile.
Well, Puzzle Knot does help enable the double cut Aetherworks Marvel.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how Shota built this deck. This deck is sweet.
So this is the cool part, Luis. We get to walk out while we're showing the other draft, and you and I get to go find Shota's table and look over his shoulder and look at him. He always looks the same, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you can't get a read on Shota. He's very stoic, but he's got to be pretty excited with how that third
I don't
pack
know. In my
went for him.
experience, every time I play him, he smiles at the end because he always beats me.
I think it's just because he's happy to have your company.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind
Or
of good.
be leaving your company, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fantastic stuff from Shota, showing one of the highlights of the format that we've seen so far, which is that you can go deep. You can absolutely go
real deep.
ham, as you'd like to say, in this format and just build a crazy deck. And we actually saw numerous of decks similar to this, not necessarily with two Aetherworks Marvels and all those rares, but
No, most decks
crazy
don't have
decks.
that.
Yeah, but I did see one yesterday that was one Aetherworks Marvel from Ben White's, and his deck was mono blue splashing Consulate Surveillance. That's
Yeah.
the only white card he played in the entire deck, and he just made tons of energy, and he 3-0'd, you know, and these are decks that are very not, you know, your standard issue, like I'm attacking you, okay, I remove your creatures type stuff and limited. We're talking about way different look. And, Shota's got one of those here too.
Yeah, I mean, when we were breaking down the limited format this week, we're looking at like, well, there's the Renegade Freighter decks, and there's the Thriving Turtle decks, and they are not generally the same deck.
Yes, they are completely different. All right, well, that was Shota's draft, but we've also got one recorded from Eric Froelich. We're going to be covering that over at the news desk, so let's send it there to Richard Hagan.
Thanks, Marshall, and thanks to Luis Scott Vargas down there with the first draft of Shota Yasooka. Now, is he ahead? Do you feel at home that he's winning right now? Noxious Gearhulk, that's pretty awesome. Saheeli's Artistry, that's really awesome. Those two together, filth. So, great start. Brian David Marshall just walked past me. He watched Eric Froelich's draft. I went, any good? I went, going to be quite fun to watch. So we're going to do that in a little bit. Now, if you are watching us on Twitch, twitch.tv/magic, there is a new feature. It's called Clips. And what we want you to do, if you see 30 seconds of awesome, we want you to clip that on twitch.tv/magic and use the hashtag PTTopPlays. That's PT for Pro Tour, top, T-O-P, plays, P-L-A-Y-S. PTTopPlays, and then you'll be able to share those 30 seconds of awesome with everyone around the Magic world. So we had tons of great stuff yesterday. It's going to get even better today. So anything you see in the draft, anything you see in the limited rounds, once we hit constructed this afternoon, just clip out those 30 seconds and send it to us, hashtag PTTopPlays. But I'm glad to say that we are ready to rock and roll with our second drafter of the morning. It is Eric Froelich. So let's hand it across the studio to Brian, David Marshall, and Ian Duke.